Right, so I've been MIA a little bit due to working on some other businesses, so YouTube has been put to the side. However, I am back in full force and I decided to get my first platinum trophy of 2026. Since the final installment of the Life is Strange series has finally released, now is no better time than ever to get the Life is Strange double exposure trophy platinum done and dusted. It is one that has been on my backlog for a long time. So as always, if you do enjoy the video, please do drop a like rating, subscribe if you're new, comment what you think I should platinum next, and then any links or guides that I use will be linked in the description below. Let's get into this platinum, baby. Kicking off chapter 1, we see our main star, Max Caulfield, back in action, but not as a teen, this time as a 28-year-old university professor. In typical Max fashion, of course, we are breaking into an abandoned building and we get to meet our new friend of the series, Safi. Safi is going to become an extremely interesting character as this story progresses, so stick around for that one. This first part of the game is mainly just getting a feel for things again, being introduced to the gaming mechanics like taking photos and walking around and things like that. And yes, there are going to be some trophies related to the photos. Then with Max here, I get this winning shot of the area before moving into the bar, which is on the university, and this is kind of like the typical university bar where all of the characters seem to connect and congregate. Max and Safi get into a deep conversation here and Chloe gets brought up out of the blue, and there's a decision that I gotta make in this conversation which can determine the ending of the game, and obviously each ending gives us a trophy, and yes, that means I have to replay the entire game twice. Nothing groundbreaking really goes on in this scene between Max and Amanda, it's just introducing those new faces to us so we know what to expect. But anyways, the main trio of the game, Moses, Safi and Max, all reconvene on this rooftop of the observatory of the university to watch a meteor shower. Yep, obviously a meteor shower, which means something is gonna happen, of course. Safi then gets this mysterious phone call and has to leave abruptly, and of course, as Max, we just have to go chasing her down to see if she's okay. But on my way to Safi, I take a photo of this owl and Max has this weird flash in her head, almost like her powers are coming back, or at least she's tried using them but they're not working. And then Max, in her disorientated self, starts walking up towards this overlook in the hopes of reaching Safi, but it is not good news when we reach her. Yeah, that's right, Safi has been shot, but by who, I wonder, and that is the mystery that we are gonna find out throughout this entire game. I love a little Scooby-Doo mystery tale for us. A day goes by and Max is back at home. Her apartment or her home is a complete mess and she needs to get it cleaned up before Amanda shows up. And then finally, I get my first trophy, not only of the game, but my first trophy of 2026. Yeah, I've been slacking on the game in front, but I promise you I'm back now. From here, Max and Amanda have this cute connecting moment before getting a phone call from Safi's mum, Yasmin, which means the two of them have to go back to the campus. Now this is where some of you keen-eyed viewers are going to realize that I actually messed up and missed a couple trophies here. These are from collectibles or just choices that I could have made in the game, and as I was playing the game completely blindly rather than a guide, I ended up missing them. So I needed to go back and restart the entire game, losing around an hour of playtime. But honestly, it was my first platinum trophy back, so I was gonna mess up somewhere along the way. But in doing this, I managed to get a trophy that I missed for rearranging some paintings, and then another one shortly after for successfully slipping Safi the bottle cap. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was a random ass trophy, but I'm not gonna complain. And finally then, I catch up to where I was in the first run. So I lost around about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 of gameplay, but trust me, later on, I mess up way worse. I meet up with Vin here and go on a little delivery mission to get a parcel that he needs, and it grants me a trophy. And this also sets up another trophy later on in the game, so make sure you do get this one. The game then introduces us to this character called Gwen, who is like Safi's mentor or professor sort of thing at the university. So they are kind of suspect number one here for me. And then in typical Life is Strange fashion, I have to run around, do some errands before moving on with the main story, which took us to Yasmin. This is Safi's mum. We had a conversation here about this memorial event that we were going to put on for Safi before heading into the fine arts building to see Moses, but I got intercepted by this girl called Loretta. As I was eavesdropping on Gwen, she wasn't so pleased about that. I finally made it to Moses, where we support him through Safi's death as he feels guilty, thinking there was something that he could have done or something that night that he could have done to potentially stop what happened. Max and Moses come out of the far building here and we see Lucas giving a speech about Safi and her death, and this is the first time we are seeing this guy called Lucas, and we're already sensing those vibes that that Max does not like him at all, and he goes right up that suspect list. As the first chapter was coming to an end, Max started to have this weird disorientated moment where it seemed like her powers were coming back, but in a different way. Max hears Safi's voice through her powers, and it allows her to follow the sound of her voice to this point where she can literally split a hole in reality and jump through to another one, and in that other reality, Safi is alive. And that wraps up the first chapter of the game super nicely, and I get a trophy for completing that. Chapter 2 kicks off at the table with Safi and Yasmin in this alternate reality of some sort. Max clearly tripping absolute balls here as she is trying to blend in her best during this conversation. With a moment to ourselves, we find out that Max powers for this game allows us to rip through two different realities, one in which where Safi is alive and the other one where she is not. So we've got the living and we've got the dead reality. This is going to be a key gaming mechanic as we are switching through the different realities to get different information from different characters to find out what actually happened with Safi. Back in the living reality, Safi shows us that somebody has thrown a deer head through her car window. So I guess that's mystery one for us to try and figure out before pinning down that true suspect. In the dead reality, I hung some keys up so a random guy could use the bathroom. Yeah, another really random trophy here. In the dead reality here, the deer head was still on the wall in the snapping turtle. So by investigating this, we found out that it actually belonged to Lucas. So I guess he must be responsible for something at least. Back on campus, Max speaks to Vin, and he is like the leader of this cult. It's called Abraxas. It's just this weird cult of weird people, I'm not gonna lie. The group sounds sketchy as anything if I'm honest. After that, I did some snooping in Gwen's office, obviously since she was a suspect. So I did this by switching between the two different realities to gather as much information as possible. I'm not gonna lie to you, Gwen was seeming like she was top dog in the suspect list, especially since she pretty much ended Safi's career. Speaking of sketchy suspects, we run into Lucas, and he's very quick to close this suitcase he is working from. So obviously by switching realities, I go into the other one where we can take a key and find out what he was hiding. And what he was hiding was a restraining order against Safi, which I can't say I was expecting. This dude just seems creepy. And I'm not gonna lie, from here I spent 25 minutes wandering around doing nothing because I actually forgot who I was meant to speak to. But I did speak to Vin a couple times here, and then I saved this favor and got a trophy for it. This kind of was set up from that mail delivery trophy that I got earlier, so that's always a bonus. As I went outside, I saw Reggie here having some kind of panic attack, and he said that he saw himself on the overpass where Safi got shot. So clearly Max's powers are spreading out through each reality here. So of course I go check out the overpass, and weirdly enough I find Gwen in her own thoughts looking over the campus. We go into conversation, and it turns out she's got this USB stick that has some evidence on it, and that she wants to burn it. So I make a quick decision and grab the USB stick from the fire, and I get a trophy for collecting all pieces of evidence for the evidence box. I had to switch over to the dead reality here where Safi's body was, and Loretta sneaks up on us. She is also trying to figure out what happened to Safi and answer some questions around her death. But this conversation got interrupted as Moses texts us saying we need to go to him ASAP. So obviously I listen to him, and then I meet him outside his office, and he tells Max here that there is a detective on the way. But the reason he is panicking is because he stole Safi's camera from the crime scene, as it may have some potential evidence on it. So as the detective shows up, Max has got to switch realities, go through his office to find the camera. While doing this, I get a trophy unintentionally, which was for interacting with everyone's project. I will be honest, in this section I did a lot of back and forth between the realities, and I was kind of getting bored of it after a while. I was kind of hoping there would be a level of more depth or just more mechanics to the gameplay here, but I did manage to get that camera, and then it was time for me to get interviewed by the detective. During this interview, I had to tell the detective that I would basically snitch on Moses if I found out any more information. Obviously, I'm not gonna do this, but it sets up a trophy later, so I agree to the terms. Moses and I then return back to Max's house so we can go over what is on Safi's camera, as well as all of the other evidence that we've collected throughout the game. I then get my last photo collectible of the chapter, so that is another trophy to add to the list. Also, this was then shortly followed by another trophy here for solving a puzzle box that we got from Reggie way back in chapter 1, and then another trophy for watering a plant. You know, saving the planet and all of that. Great stuff. Love it. Moses and I now head into Darkroom to try and make sense of all of this evidence. Remember that trophy that I mentioned I was setting up for with the detective? Well, here I choose not to snitch on Moses. I didn't really think anyone would, but I did get a trophy for that. Tell you what though, are you ready for the biggest oh shit moment of the game? We open up Safi's camera and find out the last photo taken. And yep, that's right, Max is holding a gun at Safi's camera. We can't get a clearer image than that. But wow, what an end to the chapter. And of course we get a trophy for completing chapter 2. But honestly, in all Life is Strange games, the second chapter is that one that just hits you the hardest. Kickstarting this next chapter, I go upstairs and the detective is at the door to ask more questions about Safi's death, which is really far from ideal at this point, considering I'm literally suspect number 1 right now. I had a gun to her camera. But once the detective leaves, Max tries to reignite her old powers and jump into that photo where she was holding the gun, just like the powers that we saw in the first game. And surprise, surprise, it actually works. And we see Max holding that gun in front of Safi, but she didn't yet pull the trigger. We are in this weird reality now where there's a storm in the background, just like the one from Arcadia Bay, so we know things are not looking good right now. But Max gets snapped out of that reality with her nose bleeding. Her powers clearly aren't what they once were, so we need a little detox from that. We meet Moses at the Overlook where Safi died, because at this point Moses is truly scared of us and he thinks that we pulled that off. So the next step here is to prove to him and convince him that we have these powers, so he believes that this current version of Max is not the one that killed Safi. Then out of nowhere the detective shows up, but not in a true form. It's like this weird mirage of him from the other reality, and Moses can see it too. Then to make matters even worse, the detective from our actual reality comes to the Overlook and he sees himself as a mirage of himself. But honestly, this guy is an idiot. The detective is like pulled towards this mirage of himself and grabs himself through the reality and ends up being consumed and what I think to be dead. I mean, poor guy, I guess. After that fiasco, I get back to campus to speak to Gwen about why she cancelled Safi's book and if that is anything related to her death. Then we get told that there's this person called Maya who was really close to Safi. So by doing some more back and forth through the realities to get some more information on this Maya character, who still to this day, I honestly have no idea who they really are. Maybe I should have paid more attention, but from what it sounds like, she was a friend of Safi and that was about it. While doing some snooping and some collectible searching, I get another trophy here along my way. Then it was back to the snapping turtle to attempt to feel better about ourselves. So during this subchapter, I can romance a couple characters here. The first one being I can romance is Amanda. The first one I can romance here is Amanda, which was then shortly followed by the next person I could romance, which was Vin. And trust me, I only did this for the trophy as these two honestly just wouldn't work well together. But anyways, I got the trophy here. And then it was back to Max's house to end off the chapter. However, somebody had broken in. I tell you what, this game got me tripping balls the first few times, but tell me now how Max literally has broken into her own home. I end up chasing this Max, or should I say other Max, out to this frozen lake where the other Max then falls in, so then I've got to save myself. As the ice was cracking, I used Max's powers in a way that I never had before by merging our realities into another where the ice wasn't cracking, so we can both get off of that ice lake and back to safety. Then here was something I was not expecting at all. That other Max turns into Safi. Turns out she is some kind of shapeshifter with powers of her own. Who would have guessed it? Safe to say my mind was absolutely blown after that. But I do get a trophy here for completing chapter 3. The penultimate chapter kicks off with Safi and Max here talking about shapeshifting powers, as realistically we could have been talking to somebody when we were actually talking to Safi. So with that, Safi and Max now decide to come up with a plan to tarnish Lucas for his wrongdoings, as he had kind of basically just fucked up everything on the campus, to be honest. And then honestly, this again was one of those sub chapters where it's just back and forth through little puzzles in the game to get tasks done, and I was quite bored if I'm being completely real with you guys. But I did do a little side quest along the way, and it was help Moses finish this gingerbread house, and I got a trophy for it to add to the collection here. After doing some more tomfoolery, I take a peep into Lucas's coat, and this is where Max finds that gun from the photo. But obviously not knowing the potential future that it holds, Safi takes the gun from us. So surely that's like changed everything, right? But back to tarnishing Lucas for all of his wrongdoings, which was basically where he robbed this girl Maya's book ideas or something, which indirectly led Maya to taking her own life. And it was a lot of information to take in all at once, but that's pretty much what I got from it all. But now that Lucas's reputation was now tarnished, it was time to go back to the other reality to check in on Moses and just give him that reassurance that everything was going well. But when I got back into that other reality, him and everyone else in the Snapping Turtle started freaking out. So now I'm rushing my way to the Overlook where Safi died, but not before collecting my last photo of the chapter to get myself a trophy. So then it was finally making my way up to the Overlook where Safi was pointing a gun at her mum, Yasmin. Safi basically blaming all of this pain that she is feeling onto her, which to an extent is kind of valid because her mum kind of shut her down on pretty much anything, but enough to kill her own mum? I think not. As you can see in the background, there is a storm very similar to the one from Arcadia Bay, and it is back and it is very real. It is also making Safi's powers absolutely freak out. So in the heat of the moment, Safi is pointing that gun at Yasmin. I rush Safi, but she pulls the trigger anyway. Yasmin fortunately only gets grazed by a bullet, but she still did get hit. However, Safi's powers are becoming uncontrollable, and as this chapter is ending here, Max tries to drag both of them into a different reality with the photo that she has in her hand. This wraps up chapter 4, and I get a trophy, and it's safe to say things are really heating up before the final chapter. And here we are entering the final chapter of the game, and what a journey it has been, but everything is going wrong and somehow we gotta fix it. Safi is trying to convince us to shoot her as she believes that it would end everything in the storm, but Max takes that gun and throws it right into the storm, so there is no chance that Max can shoot Safi. Right, so I'm going to mention here what I think is right, but it could be absolutely wrong. During this time, it looks like everyone has disappeared as the two realities are merging together. During this storm, however, we run into Diamond, and there is a post-credit scene which I'll probably forget to mention, but we do see Diamond at the very end of the game with a nosebleed. So this could be subtle foreshadowing that Diamond actually has powers, since she is the only one that is not really disappeared from like the forecourt and things like that. Anyways, we meet up with Moses here, and he's being weird as heck here, but it turns out Safi is stuck between Moses, and the only way that I can release her is by taking a double exposure photo of them, almost like it is the title of the game. Then things got even weirder. As Max was tripping out, she wakes up in the bathroom where Chloe died in the first game. Yeah, you know, back in, what is it, Blackwell High? Yeah, that was a crazy throwback. Safe to say the game had kicked up some memories here, but this time it was Max killing Safi instead of Nathan killing Chloe. It was absolute weirdness, and the weirdness didn't even stop there, as next I was in the chair that Jefferson trapped us in again way back in the first game. This was honestly just a serious trip down memory lane here. Thankfully I did manage to get out of there, and I end up back in the Snapping Turtle where I can take my final photo of the episode and get a trophy for it. Finally, after talking to everyone, Safi gets released from whatever trap she was in, and then we finally actually see her face to face. Honestly, this chapter was just Max and Safi talking about what happened with their powers and who is right and wrong. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was way too much dialogue to keep me entertained, but this was more of a me problem rather than a game problem. However, the resolution of this conversation is basically Safi saying that she wants to go on her own adventure with her own powers to potentially find other people that have powers and then maybe bring them all together. Is this a gateway for bringing Daniel back or Alex back from the other games? A few days then go by at Caledon, all torn up from that storm, just like Arcadia Bay was. And as I return to the Snapping Turtle, I read one of the text messages that I got for a random trophy here, which was about some platypus or something. I didn't really read any of them, but I needed it for the trophy. And then honestly, this was the end of the story, and I can't lie to you boys and girls, I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending in the game. It felt just a little bit rushed in my opinion. We had all of this build up, Safi getting powers, the storm, everything like that, and all of a sudden it was just poof, back to normal, and I just wasn't that much of a fan of it. It just felt a little bit rushed in my opinion, and there were way too many cutscenes rather than gameplay moments. However, I will leave my raw thoughts and reaction to the story here before we move on to the cleanup.
So that was the first playthrough done of the story. I think there's two different endings, I'm not entirely sure. It was pretty good. My immediate thoughts of the story were it felt rushed towards the end. Wow, the music's so loud I didn't even hear that go through. But complete chapter 5, let's go. Got a lot of cleanup to go through. Oh, what's this? Finish Life is Strange double exposure. Let's go. Oh, we got post credits. So I'm assuming now it was just a bit weird that like you thought that Max shot her and that was in like a different timeline to this and this and this. It's cool seeing that she's got powers. Wait, what? The diamond's got powers too. Okay, so it looks like we're building this like little collection of people that have got powers. I think that makes Max feel less special. Max Caulfield will return. Yeah, because at the time of playing this, Reunion has just dropped. That's the only reason why I'm playing this now, is because I wanted to play this and then hop into the final game. But yeah, my first thoughts on the story, it was pretty good. It just felt a little bit rushed towards the end, if I'm like completely honest. Felt like there were some gaps and things like that. But yeah, I'm gonna go through a second playthrough, do all of the missable things that I didn't get done, like the collectibles, which you can only do if you romance certain people and all of that jazz. But as far as like, it's been pretty good. Keep it going, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the most impressed with how the story ended, but it is what it is. I got a platinum trophy to get, so let's go get those trophies.
Let's go! Selfie care, find all photos in chapter 3. I'm just gonna go through, do the cleanup, and then I've got one more playthrough of the game to do. Boom! Archival footage, found all photos in Life is Strange double exposure. Let's go. Love that for me.
First off was for romancing all of the different characters, so I'll leave my reaction to all of that here.
Right, next, leave the bar in the living world. So should get another little trophy here. Let's go! Only eyes for the bad boy. Romanced only Vin. You know what that means? I gotta go back. And then I gotta get the other trophy. Now if I leave this door one more time, I should get another trophy. Bang! A nice girl who runs a bar. Romanced only Amanda. Let's go. Alright, I think now all I gotta do is my final playthrough of the game. Let's go! Yeah, so it turned out I actually missed one of the trophies here. I needed to reject them both. So let's leave the door now. Get this romantically disentangled. Romance neither Amanda nor Vin. Okay, that was the last one. Now I can do my second playthrough. Let's go. Give me my trophy. There we go. Bay or Bay. Playthrough Life is Strange double exposure with both outcomes from Life is Strange. Let's go. I need to do a hell of a lot of cleanup. There's a buggy trophy and some collectibles. Let's go. Let's go. Take all possible photos. Was that what I needed? I thought that one's gonna be buggy. But no. And okay, cool. I think I've only got one more trophy left to go. Let's go.
That's it, only one more trophy to get before getting that glorious platinum trophy. So as always, I'm going to leave you here with my raw thoughts and opinions on the platinum trophy and the journey that led up to it. So be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe as you are new, as well as dropping a comment on what you think I should platinum next. Enjoy this platinum trophy, baby. First one of 2026.
Ad. Please give me... This should be my... platinum trophy. This has to be the last one. Let's go, Clutterbug. Found everything to decorate Helleton with. Let's go. Picture perfect. I haven't had a platinum trophy in so long. I've taken a huge break from gaming. This is literally my first one of 2026. How bad is that? We're 4 months in, and my last trophy before this was like early December. Well, platinum trophy. Wow. You know what? I actually really enjoyed this game. The second playthrough, I was kind of rushing through. It sucked that I couldn't skip all of the cutscenes and things like that. But I really didn't mind this story. Playing it a second time through actually made me like it more, which is so rare for me. Normally it's the opposite. But genuinely, like, this game was pretty good, and the only reason I'm playing it is because there's the newest one out, which I didn't even know was coming out. So now I've got to go play that. Somehow make a video on this. I don't know when you guys are going to see this. We're in April, so whether the video comes out in May or whatever, I'm working a lot. I've got other businesses that I work on, and YouTube has kind of taken the back foot, really. But I've got so many games I want to play, so many games. I'm finally making some time now. So let's get into it. Let's get this video out. I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to keep making more videos. I've really, really missed this. That dopamine hit from the platinum trophy, nothing beats it. Nothing beats it. So we'll see you in the next one, which is going to be Life is Strange Reunion, I believe it is called. I've got a bunch of other games planned out, ready to go. See you later.